We are Cam and Heather on Sea Clef, and we are on the trip of a lifetime. Come share in our adventures as we take you through the Great Lakes to Chicago, down through the river system of the Midwest, along the panhandle of Florida, across the Gulf of Mexico, and down the west side of Florida, crossing through the Okeechobee Waterway to eastern Florida. Then share in our adventures as we continue throughout the Bahamas and back up the eastern seaboard, finally returning to Canada on America's Great Loop. We had a bit of a slower start out of Hastings as we waited while Misty Maiden dealt with some engine trouble. They suggested we go along without them and they would catch up, which is ultimately what we decided to do. Fortunately, they wound up only about a half an hour behind us. Ultimately, we both wound up arriving in Peterborough early in the afternoon after a nice, leisurely cruise in some beautifully calm water. Our travels today take us from the town of Hastings, Ontario, on to Peterborough, Ontario. Today's voyage was 33.5 nautical miles, and we traveled that distance in just under 6 hours in time, for an average speed of 5.6 knots. Our speed made good is somewhat higher today than in previous days because we had just one lock today in comparison to the 5 or 6 per day we had been doing thus far on the Trent.
Good morning from the bridge of Sea Clef.
Good morning.
We are at the entrance to Rice Lake. It's absolutely gorgeous here. We've been getting really awesome weather out, for traveling. It's been hot though. Anyway, today we are blessed with only one lock. We are going to Peterborough, and there was a lock just before we get to Peterborough.
It's one of the oldest or the oldest lock, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the only remaining limestone lock. It's a smaller lock, so we won't be able to go through it with our buddies on Misty Maiden.
Who had engine trouble this morning, but it's been fixed and they're underway. They're just behind us, maybe half an hour behind us or something like that.
So we are not going to be able to do very many more check-ins like this. We are probably about a week away from finishing our loop, which is surreal to think after all this time that we are this close to home and exciting at the same time. Any reflections?
I'm going to miss it. There's been a routine for the last over a year on our boat, and
yeah, there's very little. Where do you want to go today?
Yeah. Suddenly it's going to change. Well, it used to be south, and then it was east, and then Anyway, yes, we've been heading north for months, and it's almost done. We aren't leaving the boat. We are continuing our travels up through the Georgia Bay and the
North Channel.
Yeah, the North Channel. So lots of boating. We're not like putting our boat up for sale.
Definitely not.
And calling it going back to a dirt home. We are enjoying ourselves on the boat and have for 20 odd years. So that won't change. But the routine of getting up and getting going and knowing basically what's gonna it's just different.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the camaraderie of all the other loopers on the journey. You sit down and you talk about the routes, and you have all these things in common. Did you stay here? Did you stay here?
What did you do here?
Yeah.
Hopefully, loopers will still see our gold flag when we fly that in a week or two, and will flag us down and ask us about our trip. We will certainly keep an eye for white, gold, and platinum flags on our journeys in the Great Lakes, and we hope to see you and share a cocktail with you. Docktail. We hope to share a docktail with you, or what is the other word? Dingy tail, or is that what it is?
Oh, that was a COVID thing.
Yeah, I suppose. All right. We'll check in later.
are just at the beginning of Rice Lake, and it is so beautiful. Cam says he's already seen fish jumping. We did read that some of the best fishing in Ontario can be done on Rice Lake. While we're underway.
Swabbing the deck. We are done Rice Lake and are starting to enter the river to go up toward Peterborough. It's a narrow cut. The depths are okay. Lots of fishermen around doing their thing. We are at Lock 19, Scott Mills. It's an 8-foot lift, and we're just on the blue line with another vessel waiting to enter. This is the oldest lock on the system and has the original limestone construction. We're just before Peterborough. Once we're through this lock, we're basically in Peterborough. Looks like they are pushing really hard to get those gates open. They have these wheels that kind of loosed off the gates a little bit to allow the water out, and then they are just lugging them loose. valves. Get those gates open. So the limestone walls in here are actually on an angle. First cable, at this point anyway, is missing. So we're on the second cable stern. There's really no room ahead of us much. Certainly not for any significant boat. Well, nope. Maybe a jet ski. A couple of boats on this side. And then some jet skis behind us. And looks like they're about to close the gates.
As you enter Peterborough, I feel a mist. I hope it's not getting on the lens. It's refreshing, a very refreshing mist.
Once in Peterborough, we pumped out, fueled up, and grabbed a slip before guests Paul and Wendy, who we'd been expecting, arrived. They would be joining us for part of our Trent Severn travels as we made our way northbound from Peterborough. We also got a chance to do a bit of touring of the town and see the Peterborough lift lock. How does a lift lock work, you might ask? The Peterborough lift lock operates like a clever balancing act. Constant water pressure through the underground pipes support each of those steel rams that you see. When extra water flows into the upper chamber, a valve will open and it causes the heavier chamber to descend. This movement raises the lower chamber and starts a new cycle over again.
Here is the big moment. We are approaching the Peterborough lift lock.
Stay tuned for our next video, where we will get lifted 65 feet in a giant bathtub.